In this video, I share a recording of a call that I had with a potential consulting client where he asks what the best tax planning niches are. And with that being said, that's one of the biggest questions that I get, so much so that I've actually formulated my own thoughts about niches, industries, which is exactly what I'm going to share in this recording. Now, for privacy of this potential client, I went ahead and blurred out his face and any private information, but I did get permission for him to use this part of our call. So with that being said,
You found that's been successful industry wise from the advertising side from a niche perspective?
I actually have a backwards approach to niches, but everybody thinks of a niche as an industry. So I had a client that came to me, and his name's Ed Lloyd. Um, I have his case study around somewhere. You might have watched his video. And he was like, "Yeah, I work with dentists." And he didn't have a single dentist at the dentist client at the time, unbeknownst to me, until like 3 months later. Anyways, so he
You
was like,
believe it,
"Yeah,
you
I
can
work."
achieve it.
Yeah, he was like, "Yeah, I work with dentists." I was like, "All right, cool. We'll test it out." And he was my second tax planning client, so I hadn't necessarily like thought through this just yet. But tax planning is interesting because people have to be at a certain level in order for it to make sense for them.
Right.
So like I started my marketing agency working with restaurants,
Okay.
and I'm offering marketing. So anybody who wants to make more money, I can help them, right? It's a pretty low bar to qualify. But for him, he was like, "Yeah, like I want, for my strategies to be really effective, they need to be doing at least 7 figures gross." And I'm like, "Okay, cool." So we start running these ads and we get this huge influx of people. And like 2 weeks later, it sputters out. It stops working. I'm like, "What
Mm.
the hell is going on, man?" And I look and I'm like, "Oh, I never thought about this." So there's 182,000 dental offices in the United States. Okay. Do you know how many businesses, not just dentist offices, but do you know how many businesses on average make $1 million a year gross?
The number of businesses?
Just a percentage.
It's got to be low. I mean, I'd say maybe 5%.
Yeah, 4%.
It's got to be
4%.
low.
So we got to take 182,000 times 4%. Okay. And that's how many people qualify. But now, because we were going with a very direct pitch, right? Like my lead magnet was very indirect. It's like, "Hey, download this free PDF." We were going super direct, like, "Hey, if you're overpaying on taxes, or hey, if you're paying $100,000 or more in taxes, we'll save you 50 grand guaranteed." Like it was a very direct pitch, direct offer. So not only did only 4% of them qualify, but of that 4%, only 3 to 10% are actually in the market at any given time.
Mm.
So it came down to like 700 people that we could market to, right?
Wow.
So we
Wow.
ran out so fast of that
Wow.
specific industry. And so that's when I kind of came up with my niche definition is there's like industry niches, but then there's problem niches,
Mm.
right? So if you kind of broaden out from if you broaden out from dentists to service-based businesses making over $1 million a year and they have a tax problem, well, they all have the same exact problem. And so we can target that, and there's way more of them,
Mm.
right? So that's kind of the difference between industry and niche, in my opinion.
Gotcha.
And it served us pretty well doing that. So,
So that's an interesting thought process because really the niche is athletes, but I guess the industry niche is athletes, but the problem is um
high income W 2.
high income W2. Exactly. Yep. That's it. That's really the problem.
Hmm. And that's a, man, you want to talk about a market? So in the beginning, when I was working with tax planners, I was only basically working with people who wanted business owners. And then one
Mhm.
day, a girl came on as a client. Her name's Aileen. And she was like, yeah, my strategies can work with, she also works with athletes, actually. She's based out of Miami.
Mhm.
He was like, yeah, my athletes can work with business owners, but we also have a lot of athletes that we work with too, and content creators. And I was like, okay. Most athletes are W-2, right? Do you work with any other high income W-2? And she was like, yeah, we do. I was like, okay. Most of the tax planners I work with don't have strategies for W-2.
Right.
Or if they do, they're limited compared to the business owner, and they're not doing what you're doing, which is, hey, let's take this W-2 income, roll it over, and start a business, right? They're not doing that. So
Mhm.
they're limited to like a side hustle and real estate.
Right. 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 Right.
Maybe some charitable donations,
Right.
or if they're donating enough. And I was like, yeah, we can test it out, if you want. And so we opened the floodgates to business owners and high income W-2. Oh my gosh, man, talk about moths to a flame. I mean, these leads were getting sucked in harder than a Dyson on steroids. It was insane.
Hmm.
Because like if you're a W-2, you don't have a lot of strategies, right? So if you do
Mhm.
have actual strategies to help them, they are like all over it, especially if
Mhm.
you don't have to do like real estate or something. Dude, it's insane. So,
Hmm.
yeah, high income W-2 is a huge one to go after. Not just huge in terms of like the number, but I'll tell you a story about one more client. So, people get into real estate for a bunch of different reasons, right? But what's
Mhm.
one of the reasons that people get into real estate?
On my side is to avoid taxes.
Exactly. So, I'm
Mhm.
working with a cost seg study firm,
Mhm.
helping them advertise their services.
Mhm.
And this was like the first firm that I had worked with. I hadn't actually worked with them. They had all just been tax planners who, suggested uh, cost segs, but never actually like fulfilled it themselves. They just referred it out to another company. And I don't know why I didn't think about this before, because my very first client in tax planning actually specialized in advanced real estate strategies. And when he
Mhm.
launched his ads, man, same thing. It was like moss to a flame.
Mhm.
And when we did the cost seg, advertising, we're getting booked calls with qualified. I mean, we're talking people who own buildings, not just like one rental property, but like buildings, commercial offices, stuff like that, right? Multifamily apartment complexes for like $50. Not a lead.
Mhm.
I'm talking someone who fills out their information and books a call for $50,
Mhm.
right? And they're selling cost segs to these places for anywhere from like 5 to 10K. They
Yeah,
got
for sure.
closed, what, 1 in 3, and they have a
Wow.
$150 acquisition cost on a 10K product. So,
Mhm.
um, I was thinking about it and I was like, man, if you think about it, real estate is a great one to go after because half of them get into it for the tax write-off,
For sure.
you know? And so I wasn't like, real estate's a great one because there's W-2 people in there, there's 1099 in there, there's business owners in there, like it attracts everybody. And so real estate's a great one because people are getting into it for the tax write-offs, and then you come to them with another tax write-off like cost seg.
Mhm.
So food for thought for you. I don't know if that's helpful or not.
What other kind of like success stories and problem or industry niches have you found?
I mean, those are kind of the main ones, right?
So business owners in real estate.
Business owners, real estate, high income W-2. The high income W-2 and the real estate are both like high income W-2 has a bigger problem because they
Mhm.
they can't expense as much as a business owner, right? Business
Correct.
owners
Correct.
kind of built into their transactions already.
Hmm.
Real estate's hot because people get into it for tax strategy.
Right.
Right? High income W-2 is hot because they have a huge problem that a lot of people don't know how to fix unless they leverage real estate. Thanks for checking out the video. Hope you got a ton of value on picking a rich niche. Now, with that being said, once you have a niche, the next thing you need to know is how to get leads. So make sure to check out this next video, and I'll see you on the next one.